Okay, so well, speaking of that, do we want to talk a little bit about? We know a little more about. Well, I guess maybe we should say spoiler alert,
Spoiler?
right? What's
Yeah.
yeah? What if we're going to talk about beta stuff? What is our?
Oh,
I don't think we've had a like a real. What is our policy? Like stream
no.
spoiler or because I know there's probably some people who are listening who don't want to know anything about the beta. I don't know how the
Yeah,
I don't
you
know how
would.
you follow PoE and have that happen. I don't. What do you think?
On what specifically?
Just like how we should handle going forward talking about this, like make it
Oh.
always the last segment of the podcast, tell people spoiler alert. It's another thing we haven't talked about, but I realized was like is as I was working sitting here, I was about to start talking about it. I'm like, I'm sure there's somebody who
I think
I mean, I think
if
it's
we,
such a
yeah,
go
no,
ahead.
I think that would be a good thing to do. So, yeah,
Okay.
just make
Okay.
sure we make a little spoiler alert before we go into any beta stuff every time.
Okay. So yeah. So okay. So some things to talk about in the beta. We can sort of
Mm-hmm.
um maybe we can. Well, I don't know. We there's a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm sure we're going to be talking about it next
Oh yeah.
episode. So obviously, if we don't talk about it this time, we're definitely getting around to it for sure. Which would you prefer to talk about? I'll leave it up to you. Gems or Pantheon system? I think both are worthy of talking about.
If I was to choose right now, gems,
Okay.
because Pantheon is it that we haven't seen enough. I don't believe that they're going to introduce that. Wow, I guess that's tough because we haven't seen any active gems, right?
Yeah. I
We
mean,
only
for me,
seen
that's
support.
why I'm. Yeah, that's why I'm
Ah,
not
but
actually. Me personally, I'm like, okay,
mm,
these are interesting, but where's the like gem I'm going to be playing if it's something? You know what I mean? It
mhm.
was a weird.
Well, how about beta balance in general coming into
Okay.
it, like just how it feels playing it versus on live
Okay.
expectations and
Okay.
that kind of thing.
So what do you? Well, so I want to hear. You've actually played more of the. They've patched a couple things, and I haven't played that much.
Yes.
So what is your current like? How do you feel right now? Because I think a Monster Health patch. I think that
Yes.
happened after I played through a couple times because
Okay.
I noticed absolutely when I was playing an alpha, I noticed no difference at all.
I think
Now maybe
monster health is mainly tied to mapping,
okay,
from my understanding. So that
okay,
a lot of bosses have had their HP doubled. I think normal series was lowered a little bit. Uber series was increased by a decent amount. I think Shaper was and Guardians are untouched, but they have a lot of life already,
right,
and especially with Poison going out in well, not it's not going out, but being vastly less scalable. Same thing with
right,
Ignites. That's definitely gonna put a halt into the early cheese of these kind of encounters. Obviously, people are
right.
still gonna be able to do them quickly, but it's gonna be you have to have a much more like well-tuned build for it now, rather than just stack everything poison, go in, pop, pop, and he's dead.
Yeah.
But what do I? I'm actually very positive so far from everything I've played through. Obviously, there are things that need to be added and changed, but when I look from my perspective, I'm mostly looking at the balance of everything. I think it's in a really good state right now. There's like a few outliers, like the newly introduced decay, which for leveling purposes I'm very worried about. Have you seen decay?
Well, the gems came out, and I was like, do I want to test gems? And I was like, eh. Especially with the wipe coming, I'm just gonna
Mm-hmm.
make character. I'll make a character or two. I'll do two playthrough. Normally, when I test on alpha, I can share with some people. I mean, everyone has their own thing they do. I
Mm-hmm.
normally make a melee and play all the way through the game as much as I can, and then I make a caster and do the same thing. And I specifically um I am trying to cheese. I want to cheese as much as possible because I mean that's what PoE is kind of about. You
Yeah.
know, what again, and at least on Alpha, I was normally solo self found, and maybe that's why I don't really feel the need to ever solo self found. So I've made like 15 solo self found characters over the years playing Alpha, but um, it's interesting to me doing that, I feel like you get a very good perspective on like what they're thinking, I guess is the best way I can describe it. You know, like you see what they're thinking about. And so
Okay.
decay, when I see that in action, although I haven't tried it, I saw Waggle had a video on Reddit
Yeah.
showing it. And I was like, how is ball lightning killing everything?
Yes.
So I just want to say, like, you know, this is such an interesting thing. I don't know anything about the gem. I have no idea what's going on because I'm kind of like, you know, I've compartmentalized a little bit. I'm like, well, I'll do beta when the wipe happens and 8 and whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
Just watching the video for 10 seconds, I went, what are they possibly thinking? Like, I looked at his tree. He wasn't like, you know, oh, I picked up this notable and this other notable, and PS, if you do that, you know, you get 500% damage. It just seems like, and ball lightning sucks. It's coming from someone who likes ball lightning and wish it was better. It's not a great skill. I mean, I know you can
No,
make it great, but
it's not about ball lightning, this thing, just so you know.
okay. But that's what I'm saying though.
Mhm.
That's my point, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I kind of, right. You just, because you just tick, as long as you tick with damage, right? It
Yes.
starts.
It's like
Okay.
delirium.
Right. It's just like delirium. So it's basically a free delirium for whatever spell you attach it to, right?
Yes.
That's okay. So it's like, I mean, I guess the thought process was until you get the delirium weapon
Mm-hmm.
and some things, which usually happens like around 80, 85, 90 or
Mm-hmm.
something, things kind of blow for an ED character. I guess leveling is the thought process. Although, again, with Abyssal Cry and like one thing, I mean, yes, is it as fast as something else? No, but it's pretty insane because I've leveled like that, and I thought I had a lot of fun. I blew everything up, and yeah, I don't know. It seems way too strong. I mean, I hate being that sort of bummer person, but it just seems like it's out of control already. But I guess that's the point of a beta. Maybe they'll adjust it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. What do you think?
So I fear the how it screws up with the identity of gems and identity,
Okay.
because it no longer becomes about like I'm playing this build or that build. It's slap and decay, and everything becomes at least for leveling. I think a gem like this, if it's too good, everyone uses it as their leveling tool. It literally becomes, regardless of what class you are, you pick up whatever damage over time nodes are close to you, you put in decay in your ball lightning, and you apply it to everything, and you just run through the game. Right. And you do that. Every single character can do this because there's like damage over time. Maybe not Marauder. Marauder might be like in a bad spot. That's one of the few.
Yes, I think so.
But every other character is close enough to these kind of nodes where you can do it. Or you make it weak and nobody uses it because it requires like a huge, maybe like a niche, very, very, but it becomes this like, yeah, it's kind of bad. Don't really use it.
Well, okay, so this is interesting. Something I've really been, it has been, I don't know what to call it. Just a craw. It's stuck in my craw. But okay. I feel like we've made this switch from, it used to be, there were actually really interesting supports.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a bunch of different gems you could do for different play styles.
Mm-hmm.
And now it feels like we've entered the 360 zone a little bit, and supports blow. And I you know what? I feel like I understand that could be insulting to somebody at GGG. I don't mean it that way, but I feel like being blunt is the best way to describe all the emotions I feel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes it's funny. I can hear my mom specifically, you know, saying like, if you just say something fucking sucks, right? That it's just a curse, and it's, you know, it's reductive, and it's, you know, like, what are you, simple? You can't explain, you know. But sometimes there really is no way. I'd have to either spend 10 minutes describing everything, and I'll do that, but I don't think anyone, or just say this fucking sucks. And I mean, I understand the logic behind why shotgunning was removed, but man, like, I love that play style.
Yes, it was a very interesting thing. Like you had to get up and close to get the full potential. You could stay behind, but it was really weak. And there's this whole motion between you and the monster of positioning and all that. And it was very interesting to play with. Agreed.
Right, and I feel like we've seen this happen with a lot of interesting mechanics in the you know, trying to something it, like Arctic armor. I think Arctic armor sucks. Right, it used to be, in my opinion, very interesting. It was a very interesting mechanic, and I remember when it came out, I was like, "What's this stupid jump?" I I was just on his face. I was like, this blows. And then I saw Noogie playing it and other people playing with Arctic Armor. And I'm like, man, what did I miss? And I had to look at it. I was like, oh, it's really interesting. I didn't realize that the flat part would scale so much. And wow, you know, when you reducing things by a flat amount, this can start to really, you know, you're scaling things both ways. You have a percentage reduction and then you get the flat reduction. And that just went to, I don't know, something poopy. And I mean, like, even the bonus on Arctic Armor doesn't, I don't think it used to made you move fast.
Yes, it did.
Faster. And now it's just, it increases the chill duration, which I guess is something. But it's like, wait a minute.
The problem with Arctic Armor, though, with how they have to, is because if you used back then,
right?
If you used, I guess now you could still have movement speed because it costs mana, but back then you could use level 1 with costing almost no mana at 10 quality, and you would get movement speed. So every character would use a level 1 Arctic Armor.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. You know, so I mean, I understand maybe there has to be some, you know, okay, I guess so. I can see why they don't like that part, but it's like, they feels like they killed it. They were like,
you could remove that part and have it remain the same.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, and I feel like we've entered this, I mean, I would call it the 360 and the more phase of PoE, where everything is just more. All those gems that came out were just another way of saying more. I guess decay is the interesting one, and it feels absurdly overpowered.
Yeah.
Right. The rest of them, I just are like, hey, do you want, you know, it's like exhibit with the, hey, I heard you like more multipliers on your gems, so we put a more and a more and a more and a more. And I mean, that's really, that does feel like it. Go. Disagree?
No.
Okay.
But I do think that what needs to be appreciated a little bit about the gems is that they're not trying to make new interesting gems for us to play with. They're trying to fill holes to enable playstyles. You could not play a bleed build anymore if they had not introduced these gems. You just couldn't, because you could play bleed builds before. Conk effect would work on it, and such, like restoration, but without the double dipping effects, they have to introduce new gems with actually more multipliers. Right. So it's more of a to me, these gems are more of a necessity to enable some of the playstyles and to maintain that they're actually playable.
Okay.
And then people have to figure out like the new ways of doing it. There's a cool one in there actually. Vaal toxins is pretty nice, because it's for every poison you have, it gains more damage. So the initial, let's say you do like an initial hit, it only adds 5% more poison, but it stacks up to 6 times. So it's a support that stacks and gains more and more. Obviously, still a more multiplier, but it's with a condition at least.
Okay. So I mean, it works a little bit like Viper Strike, I guess. It's like adding Viper Strike a little bit too.
I do feel like a gem like that should be the most powerful for poison. It should not. It should not be the where there's I don't think it should be like the more generic, the more generic more multipliers that just straight up work on the first hit, where it's just powerful. It's the same thing with GMP, right? GMP had a condition of you had to going up in their face, and that's why it became powerful. But it gave you this condition of now you have to play this way, otherwise all your other projectiles suck.
Right.
So it alters your play style, or how the build plays. And I think that's important, because if all the most powerful gems just remain a static increase, like the moment you put it in without any condition, well then they will always win. So they have to be, I think they have to be weaker than the conditional ones by default. And I don't think they've done that. So at least not well enough.
I'm looking at it right here. Lesser deadly vial toxins. Okay. Yeah. Well, so, okay. So let's just say then that these are the required replacements or hole filling, or like you're saying, to preserve playstyles. Then I would say I hope that we're gonna get 5 new supports and 5 new active skill gems or something.
Yeah.
The expansion. Beyond these ones, these 12 or 11 gems that they've created, because it just feels like I don't know. Again, part of this, I guess, I played a lot of PoE, so maybe there's less and less. I don't want to discount that. I feel like it's not that I've played so much PoE. I feel like the interesting ways to support, to me, have diminished over time.
I think that ties into the fact that we have solved the game to an extent.
Okay. With like path of building and other stuff like that.
Yeah. But also just in general, like even without path of building, PoE has kind of initially PoE was this like I don't know. There's this mystery. We didn't know what things worked the best. We didn't know like the multiplier thing together.
The theory crafting Wild Wild West or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
In the same sense. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I just think we've just solved a lot of the game, and then once you solve it, when all the mystery just kind of fades, it does seem a little bit less interesting.
Right.
So I don't know. I think it's hard for like. I think it would be. It's hard to just introduce new interesting because they have so many things, right? But how do you add like a new dimension to the game at this point? That's not easy. I think that's really difficult. I think Blade Flurry, for instance, was a really cool skill introduced.
Yep. Well, I mean, the EK support gem is obviously really interesting, right? What is it called again? I don't remember.
Oh, EK Nova.
Yeah, the EK Nova gem.
All sorts your playstyle as well. Yeah.
Jewel.
Yeah.
I mean, it does seem like more of the interesting playstyle alterations are happening in jewels now, not support gems.
What do you think about that, by the way?
Just that process in general, that they're doing that?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I feel like this is where we see the jewel system clearly has gone through several sort of iterations or something. And I think what we see right now with it is actually what they wanted it to be. Although, again, not to be insulting, but like commercialized, because I feel like at one point it would have been much more complex. You know, if let's say the jewel system came, which I think they were, according to Chris, was something they had sort of been planning a little bit for a while. I think if the jewel system came out in 2012, we would have had something where, like, to remove a jewel, you have to go on a quest, or you have to do something really annoying, or you start off with a jewel that has one, or you socket a jewel by killing a thing and it's one stat, and then you like collect stats. I mean, I'm just saying there's things that I think would have been done differently, that just because this is at the end of the day not a Korean ARPG or MMO or something, they've been reducing those sort of costs to the game. But I feel like that first version was so underwhelming, but then so clearly exploitative, I guess is the word for it, where like stacking 10 jewels was definitely the right way to play the game, right? Because there were jewels everywhere, and so you just picked up stuff that, you know, life or ES or whatever damage was near, and then you picked up as many jewels. And that's still the case. That's still the case, right? If you go anywhere and you spend 2 or 3 points for a jewel, 100% that's the correct thing to do.
Yes.
At any point on the tree, which I mean, I guess, is that because we've solved it? I mean, I do think that's part of it, but I kind of don't like that. Well, I don't know. I mean, the tree hasn't changed in how long has it been? Like 3 years since we've had an actual change of the passive tree, and so it's never going to change at this point, in a significant way, right? Because they've talked about how people quit when they change the tree. They used to change the tree a lot. Yeah, their standard character would get bricked, and so they'd quit. Okay, so that's fine. But then I think that relegates the changes to, like, I think the jewels. Really, you could have some of the stuff that they do on the tree, and the tree could be bigger and more complex. Yeah, that's true. Then, you know what I mean? Like, that's really what it seems like it's taking place of. Instead of, so they're designing notables and passive, well, maybe not passives, but notables basically has been transferred over to jewels.
Though I think that actually creates more of a better design space for them, though, because if you introduce these if you introduce anything to the tree that any build can pick up, you either it's very cluttered with for EK for every single specific gem that this has to work for, or else it becomes very dangerous to balance, right? You now shoot in a Nova, but then you just do it for Fireball and for EK and for, right? So putting it on the jewel means that they can be more specific, and then they can make more interesting design choices with the actual gem without it bricking it for everything else.
I guess so. See, it's interesting you say it like that. I had not thought of it until you said it. But my response, I mean, why I've always hated some of this stuff is because what if I just don't like EK?
Mm-hmm.
What if I want to play that build but with Fireball or Incinerate or Freeze Pulse or whatever? You know, it's interesting because I think, so that's a perfect example. I think old PoE, the EK Jewel would be a passive on the tree. A note, like a keystone, or what's the highest thing? Is it keystone is the highest thing?
I think so.
No, the big circles.
Keystone are the biggest things, and the notable passives are the
they're the second biggest. Okay, so it would be the big thing on the tree, like CI, whatever, and it would be somewhere between Duelist and Ranger, and you could do it with anything. All projectiles become fire in a 360, and reduce. I mean, I don't know what the jewel does. Does it reduce your projectile damage by 50% to do that?
No.
For EK?
No, it doesn't do anything. Okay. It just now shooting a projectile with more. I think it's the same. No, I think you gain more. I think you gain a little bit more. Is it the same? I don't know. You're shooting a Nova.
Okay, so there would obviously have to be something about reducing projectile damage, I would think, if it was on the tree. So maybe it makes it more interesting. It makes this more interesting for EK because maybe EK would then
suck.
Suck with it on the pass tree. So you're right in that. I think you're exactly right in that sense that it for that one specific build is interesting. But why can't I do that with this? Like I think back to I like Whispering Ice. I want to use that skill. I don't want to use a staff. I do not want to use a staff. I want to use my unique, and I want to make a strength-based Whispering Ice, instant strength-based character.
Okay. With that in mind, have you ever played Media in XL? First question.
No.
Okay. So I will explain. Okay, so you know what Media in XL is? The mod for D2?
Yes. My brother Laz.
Yes. Brother Laz has a specific jewel, right? So jewels in D2 can be socketed into to just normal items. Right. This specific jewel is something called Cornerstone of the World. It is incredibly rare. Once you socket it, it can't be taken out. It's a one-time thing, but it can give you any skill in the game, and it's random.
Okay, and it's random. Okay. So what is that?
So you can get Blink on your Barbarian. You can get anything.
Okay. What do people normally socket it in? Like, is there a helm or there's a chest or something that people put that in so that if they get something that's not good for them, they can trade it or whatever?
Yeah.
Assuming people trade in. Okay.
Like you can make an assassin that can now use and the Amazon's pounce, or right. There's all these things that you can get.
Okay.
So what about if you have some of these more unique skills that you can get them this way through a jewel?
You're saying with PoE?
With PoE.
I mean,
you could go Whispering Ice if you had the jewel. One usage or something like that. And
well, I mean, wouldn't that be interesting? Like if you put it on your character, you can't ever unsocket it.
Yeah, and now you have Whispering. Now you have the Whispering Ice skill.
Yeah, I think I would be all over that. I think that'd be really interesting. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't see that ever happening in PoE ever. But it's weird though because PoE took some of that, right? Anyone can use it. Right? I mean, I don't know where that idea. I don't know where the idea for this, the way the skill system works, because I don't believe it's 100% organic, but it's definitely they've taken the whatever was going on and then they've added their stuff onto it, right? I feel like the next ARPG that we see out there, I think will have something of this system in it. There'll be something, you know, whether, I mean, it's not a one-to-one or what. I just feel like that's one of the best things they did was the way you know, I just still remember that video. Was it, maybe it was for a release of the game where there's a witch firing a fireball.
Yeah,
And then it's like, oh, it can be LMP. Oh, it can be GMP. Oh, it can be, you know, just like across the screen. Yeah. Like that, you know, whoever created that thing, they deserve their paycheck, right? Because I mean, I didn't need to be explained anything about PoE at that point, right? But if there was someone I wanted to say, why do I like PoE? That video encapsulates like perfect. Never change it. But I mean, that's where I come back to, I don't think that's the case anymore a little bit. Right? Because some of these
I agree with that, because it's more about, it is what you say. It is more about stacking all the right multipliers.
Right.
But that's also because there's no longer any question about what is the right combination for getting the best AoE, getting the best, right? And so then you have the package, and then we just need to optimize. And that's kind of what we're at right now. We're in like optimization land.
Okay. And that's fair. And I mean, there's still a lot of interesting things to do. I don't want to say that I'm not interested. I just wish there was more of
something interesting recently actually is if you look at the evolution of Vaal Fireball, where it ended up with fork, because that was the solution to making Vaal Fireball great, was to add fork, because it's the only way to extend the range of the it's the only way to extend the range of the fireball while having it explode on impact. Okay. So it explodes when it forks, and then the other two also explodes.
Right.
So that's actually kind of interesting. It's not something that occurred immediately.
Right. Can I all right, I mean, I want to stay on this topic, but
okay.
But I want to just say something.
Yeah.
If I was made Grand Wizard of PoE and was able to decide any balance change anything, one, Vaal skills can only be used once every 45 seconds. You could not have more than, I guess I could be compelled to say, the 2 unique flasks. You could have 2 unique flasks on your bar. I just, fuck me.
They're limited. Like, unique flasks are limited to, they could do the same thing for flasks for sure.
Something, anything. Yeah. My God, please. Like, I just... I understand it's interesting because Vaal skills were always intended as a single use. Like, I still remember I'm trying to remember the first time I saw a Vaal skill that was actually, I think it was Etup throwing Vaal spark trap thing, which you kind of had to take a circuitous route to get it, right? Because you needed Vaal spark, you needed trap, maybe, or remote mine. Maybe it was a remote mine. I don't remember. Maybe it was only one support gem to make the trap Vaal spark thing work. But that was good because you throw it on a boss, and boss definitely would get shocked and fuck it up. And then of course he killed Bob because he threw that on the Inquisitor dude in Academy that spawns tornadoes every time he's hit. And lagged everyone but anyway. And okay, so like to me that's like, or that was like step,
and you
1.5.
You had to actually save your Vaal skill.
Right,
for the boss fights.
Save it. Yes, you had to save it, and and now it's like the best builds are Vaal skills 85% of the time, 90% of the time, basically.
When we're talking about XP mapping.
Okay, fine. We're talking about XP mapping. I mean, on some level, that's the entire point of the game, right? There's some.
I don't know. From a lot of people enjoy endgame in various forms. Like, there's the people who just go through the first iteration of the game, the playthrough. They just kind of they touch the map system, and that's kind of it, right? They might just get into the first few tiers. They don't collect all the gear into getting an actual Vaal skill going. And then there's an entire other branch that does lab, and then there's another branch that does guardians and Ubers.
And all of those people are not affected by this change, right? So then who cares? So then why not do it?
Okay. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
So
in my mind, your argument supports what I'm saying, where
sure,
I'm not trying to fuck people over who are mapping, but I feel like it's gotten to the point of we need drastic things to happen.
No, I agree that for even if it's only for the mapping section of the game, I do think that changes are needed for that part. Though the boss kill stuff definitely affects that, because vaal skill builds, well, it's, obviously some of them do a lot of single target, but if they run out and if they don't immediately kill the boss, they do struggle.
Oh, sure. I've watched it. I mean, it was interesting to me because I think my golem characters, I really love the character. And somebody was saying, like, man, your boss killing speed sucks.
Okay.
And then watching Ziz, because really haven't watched them any of these. My God, my golems take a shit on bosses compared to that. I mean, if he has Valspark up and he gets a crit or two, maybe he'll kill one of them, because I was watching him mostly stream.
Oh, okay.
He'll kill one of them, and there's bouncing and whatever. But it's still like, it seems like he has to portal out. Doesn't mean flasks, and so I was like, okay, my build going as fast as I possibly can is still going 50% as fast, or some number.
Yeah.
Many below what that build is, but then I do make up some time. The fact that I kill the bosses in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
If all the golems volley.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so so I understand 100%. There's weaknesses to it. I do think there's a point out there where people will say something like, "Who cares? Don't pay attention." And I just think that I understand that point, but I think that's, I don't want to say it's a straw man argument. I don't know. I just feel like there's some sort of logical fallacy where it's like,
no, because the moment you turn around on them on something they don't like, they would have to concede immediately, right? And you would have to say, like, they had to not care about what like lab, right? Don't care,
right? Yes. Right. I fucking hate lab. Why do I have to do it? And then, So yeah, so it's interesting. I do think it's kind of a dumb argument, and I don't know. Like I'd like to compete in a 1 week race. I don't really want to play those builds. I don't think that I'm somebody who I don't have to play a slow build, right? Although I don't mind doing it. But I know there's really realistically zero chance, unless you're playing Valspark, Vaal Fireball for an XP race.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like a drastic, like, when is enough? What I don't understand is how Valspark still works. How this is what I don't understand. How does that still work? And something that somebody else does works for one league and was nowhere near as stupid as that. I mean, that's why I just don't understand how some things. Why is this allowed to stay? That's what I don't get. And I understand if they're like, well, we nerfed it, and then, well, I guess we forgot about the fact that we added ascendancies that are going to.
Well, they kind of killed normal Spark though.
Killed what? Sorry.
They killed normal Spark, which I enjoyed playing.
Right. Okay. So yeah, it didn't actually solve anything.
No.
It fucked up the one thing that maybe would be interesting to play, and then Valspark's still working. I don't know. I just don't understand. Like, it's just such a bizarre thing to me. I still think Flame Blast is the best skill they've ever designed. Period. And maybe there's some other things that, Blade Vortex or Blade Fall. Those are all really great skills. But I think Flame Blast for me, because it's really the first caster spell that I think balanced risk versus reward. I mean, it was totally fucked up with elemental proliferation. I understand that. That's not really a symptom of the skill, other than the fact that you could make it hit the entire screen and then proliferate to, I don't know. But I'm just saying, I think that really shows good skill design. And so I understand how hard it would be to nerf that. That's why that stayed powerful for 5 or 6, whatever leagues. But that's because they didn't want to nerf elemental proliferation, because it's that whole classic thing of they can nerf it so that it doesn't work for Flame Blast, but then anyone else who wants to elemental prolif cannot do it at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because, so I understand that this is a living world, and, it's like turning the tiller on a huge ship, and like if you turn it, the ship doesn't turn immediately, but it's going to start to turn. Okay. At this point, how can it still be working? How has there not been a better solution? I don't know. I just don't understand. I mean, I guess you could say they don't care, but then if they don't care, why were other things nerfed? Right? This is the part I never get, where it's like, they're like, well, because, they were okay with that, but then they nerf other things over here because their effect on the map system or their effect on the X, and then they just ignore this thing over here. And God, it drives me fucking crazy. And like the thing is, I really think it has to be either or. It really does, because I do think that one of the things that I realized about myself, I tend to like really one or two builds, and I want to play it a couple times, and I really want to perfect it. And when they take away the ability for me to play what I want to play, I really have a real problem with PoE. And like taking away shotgun and that playstyle really made it tough for me to figure out what I wanted to play in PoE. And so they take that away, and so then they're like, but people really like Vaal Spark. Well, dude, I liked what I did. I don't know, like that argument. I just don't. It just seems, and like, dude, if we're gonna nerf things that are overpowered and are at the top of the mountain or the top of the ladder or the whatever, it's been there for I don't know how long. A long time, long time. It's been the best build. Like, what was there one league where Vaal Spark was not the best build?
Well, Vaal Spark is not. Vaal Fireball is better
for mapping.
Right
at this point, sure, but it's the same. Okay,
but that's okay. So that's I had a conversation with Sis not too long ago, where I would say that all Vaal skills are essentially the same. You're just turning the knob, like at which ones, like, because the playstyle is like you're just clicking the thing and you run through the map.
Click the thing and you run through the map. Yeah.
So, but I don't know. I will say this though, just to. Can I just say, I don't want to say that there's no skill involved. I mean, Ziz died at 99 and whatever. He fucked up once. Maybe he fucked up 3 times total, and 2 times didn't kill him, and then the 1 time killed him in 99. I'm not saying that it's free. It's not like you can just hit your 9 key and then everything in the map dies. I'm not saying it's like that. No. And there's a lot of setup, and it's there's a lot of intricacies to it that people don't really see.
Yeah,
and you have to kind of like, because I was setting up for it, and there was definitely a lot of things I learned along the way, and it's not like I didn't recognize it before, but it's definitely, you did with every build. I think you from every like min-maxed build out there, once you start playing, you kind of start realizing kind of like how deep all the decisions go into making certain builds. Though on the how are they not changing it, I actually think that this that is going to be quite impactful though. What's happening, or what they're doing in the beta, leading into 3.0. You can only have vault only 1 sack harvest. I think Resist was running 3.
Right.
So this severely reduces the amount of.
That's the skills gained when you shatter.
20 to 30% more souls, or chance to get an extra soul. 20 to 30%. You stack 3 of them, 100%, right? 100%. Or close to like 90%. If
80,
you get
85%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And no spell echo. Like the fact that they could use spell echo in the first place was kind of ridiculous, but there's no longer spell echo on either Vaal Spark or Vaal Fireball, which is also a big change.
I missed that spell echo was removed from that. Okay, so then I'll revise.
And boss health goes up, making it even harder for them to like do the just mapping process.
Okay, all right, fine. I mean, I still think back to spell echo being removed from Incinerate. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I don't want to. Let's not be. It's my personal thing, but okay. It really does. It's just so. Yeah. Okay. So I guess we'll wait and see. I'm not optimistic. I'll tell you right fucking now.
No,
I'm not optimistic, because we've got every time it's like it like they're basically like there's 2 ways they balance things sort of in the future. One is you see them walk up to something and shoot it in the head, right? And when they shoot it in the head, it's nerfed. Other times they walk around like a rock and you hear a gunshot, and they come out and say, "We nerfed it." That one, we don't know anyone's dead. They could have just fired a gun. And like that's what seems to happen a lot of time. They're like, "Oh, we've never nerfed anything like this before." Okay, well, fine, I guess so. And then it turns out, you just have to click this other thing over here, and then it's all back to it used to be. So, and again, I understand it's tough, but it's not that tough, because they've taken spells where they're like, we really don't know what to do, so we're gonna roll over and shoot it in the head like they did with Incinerate. I mean, okay, so Well, I mean, it does feel like they pick and choose winners a little bit
Yeah.
for it, and I really kind of that's really been my biggest problem the last 2 or 3 years with PoE
Hmm.
is the picking and choosing of ways to play the game and things to do in the game. And
Hmm.
that's the part it's always been confusing to me because that was the whole reason I loved PoE is that if I want to make the shitty Marauder caster, then I'm more than happy to do that
Hmm.
or whatever. But like I even come back to I remember the first time I saw Chieftain
Yeah.
and I said, wait a minute, I play a cold Marauder. How do I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that? The answer is you don't. You are wrong. Fuck you. And I mean, I understand that that's inflammatory and oh my god and whatever, but that's been true. I don't see anyone playing. I don't see anyone playing those builds anymore. There were a bunch of people playing builds like that. I mean, they do play.
Yeah.
They play Iron Will, I guess, Fire now, right?
Yeah, you can
So,
convert it and all that, but they're taking the conversion away as well. Though I
right,
don't disagree with that, though. I think that's a good idea. Otherwise, you just kill the identity of everything with skill. I don't think that's smart.
right, right. So anyway, I guess we'll see. I didn't know about
Yeah.
the Spalico change, so that's on me. That's a
I do
huge.
think it's
That is a huge
strange,
thing.
like on the Marauder thing. Like, why don't we have like an Iron Will specific, more of an Iron Will specific style? It seems very forced into.
Okay. Well, okay, so if I'm being a little, moresy about my answer, I think that they had a limited amount of mojo juice to come up with good ideas, and they used a lot of it on other stuff, and then they were like, oh, we need to come up with Marauder things. Because, two Marauder things were released. They were released last. If you remember how they were releasing like Ascendancies
Yeah.
every other day, they released one or two.
Yeah, I remember.
And Marauder was among the last released because I think it was the
Hmm.
designed latest and definitely not as great. And then also as they released Ascendancies, they were narrower and narrower. Right? Shadow was crit. Marauder is fire caster something like it was so those are to me such like one is literally a third of the game is crit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Although I guess maybe people don't play that Ascendancy class anymore because
Which one?
what's the crit shadow class? Not
Assassin?
Saboteur, Assassin. I mean, do people play? I guess people are
Oh
playing
yes.
Assassin. Yeah, I'm just saying like it's
A
not
lot of
like
people
the
play
only
Assassin.
thing you play.
Especially
all
on
I'm saying.
standard.
Yeah,
All the poison
no,
builds, if you want to go super ham, it's like Assassin.
it's Assassin, right? I'm just saying it's not. When I first saw that thing, I thought, why is anyone going to play anything else? But of course, that was because it was one of the first released. And,
Yeah, yeah.
and I mean, obviously,
Well,
Pathfinder
it's obvious to see the power it had with all the
yeah,
crit multi and base crit and all that, and we already
right.
knew that the crit was
Crit was the best
the
thing.
king
Yeah,
at that point. So
Crit is king. Anyway, and it was just such a. I don't know. It was. I don't know. I still think it's the worst design class in
which one?
almost out of all the Ascendancies was Chieftain, in my opinion.
Oh,
Chieftain and maybe Juggernaut. And I mean, the thing is, they've changed Juggernaut a bunch. I mean, that's what I think people don't realize. There's been like 6 changes to Juggernaut.
oh
It's
really?
much better than it was. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Because the armor thing,
Yeah.
there was something about it where it didn't work right. Then they fixed it.
Okay.
They fixed the wording and fixed how it worked. And then it became, okay, so now if you get a chest with 3,000 armor, you have 75,000 armor. But I mean, maybe it was like.
And speaking on your with your argument from before, though, is that if I like something, I do know like there's a lot of people who like the Fire Marauder builds and that entire archetype.
Oh
right?
no,
So,
and I don't want to. That's the thing. I don't want to take it away from them. I want to take what they have and provide it to me.
Yes.
That's the part I never understood. If they want to make the chieftain thing, why doesn't the caster Marauder have? And we've seen this in Ascendancies. Instead of having, it has like a couple of branches. There's a fire branch, there's a cold branch.
Yeah.
Yes. And like maybe every ascendancy on the tree in terms of class has one like that. It's the off class, so it has a couple more options, but that's because I guess the problem is, right, there's some of the conversion things. So if you picked up the lightning and the fire and then you were able to convert, maybe it'd be stupid. All right. I don't want to go down the road of picking.
But is that a bad idea, though? That you allow players to find those kind of things?
No, I don't think so. I think that's the whole point of PoE. And then if it's really overpowered, well, then you fix it the next league, or that's kind of the point. appear. But anyway, I just don't like that. I can't believe that the Caster Marauder I've never played. Right? Like if the people know me for anything, I feel like knowing for Caster Marauder, and yet I have zero appeal to play that because I can't play it the way I want to play it. And that's what I've really have never liked about Ascendancies. And you know, I thought we were going to keep getting Ascendancies. Right. So I was like, that's why I didn't completely lose my mind, even though I was pissed at the time and spoke out about it. I was like, well, it seems like the setup is the passive tree is never going to change. Right. Because that anyone sort of reading the tea leaves could see that we were going to get to where the passive tree is going to become a stagnant thing. And maybe they'll add an ascendancy every major expansion. So I thought for 3.0, we might get another ascendancy for each class. It actually seems like a very easy way to something.
Yeah, maybe it could be like a midterm between now and next expansion.
Ooh. Yeah, like you know, I would love.
I wouldn't be too hopeful about that, but
no, zero chance. There is zero chance that happens because we moved on to the Pantheon system.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe I'm also surprised because it seems like it's easy to add more, unless I misunderstand. It's their self-contained things besides the Ascendant, which. Let me get back to, I think, bad. It just ends up being a bad design of the tree. It's bad for ascendancies. It's always going to be the way it is. I mean, I guess every time I hear them say, well, the tree was always designed with the seventh person in mind. And I would have been like, okay, but so where you're saying there's an ultimate class. So does that mean either everyone's going to play it or no one's going to play it? And I mean, that's exactly where we are, where, I don't know. It's still the least played ascendancy, I'm pretty sure. And I mean, I guess we'll see what the buffs, what changes. I'm looking over them.
I can tell you right now that there are some real choices to be made with, we were tinkering with a crit flame blast build, and there's actually some very interesting setups you can make for Ascendant, where you can utilize like the, where you actually utilize the jump to the shadow. Like you actually use the package and it becomes very interesting. You lose out on some things and maybe like some other tendencies of other things that are powerful, but it's definitely a choice that seems very interesting, and it's not obvious which we choose between the ones. So I think it is getting closer to a not really a like the binary, either it's good or not. There's actually some interesting things to make there.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I think it could be more interesting if we had less points on the tree, right? Because what do builds have 110 points?
Yeah.
I think if we had 70 points on the tree,
jumping would be way more important.
Right. Then saving 10 points.
Yeah.
You know, or because you just can't do it unless you do the jump. Okay. Well, now we're talking about something that I find compelling and interesting, but it's not because. Yeah, I mean. Anyway, when we started this on with support gems and beta balance, I am hopeful. I am hopeful about things. I guess next week we can talk more about the Pantheon system. I guess we still have stuff to find out. You know, we still have to.
Yeah, I think after Act 8 hits, we get to see the last of the ones we get to see before 9-10. Like then we should have like at least the fully revealed package before 9-10 at least.
Okay. Did they say it was going to be 2 to 3 active gems, 2 to 4? I think
that I don't know.
Okay, I don't think maybe not with Act 8. I'm just saying I think they said that there were going to be 2 to 4. For some reason I'm remembering 2 to 4, and I don't know where I got that from. But there were going to be some new active gems.
Okay.
I mean, there has to be. That would be.
That's going to be interesting. I can't really think of what they're going to add.
Oh god.
What did they add with the Blade Flurry? Or was that Blight? Was it Blight, Blade Flurry, and what else?
Yeah, Blight, Blade, Flurry, and it was another channeled spell.
Scorching Ray?
Cast one.
Scorching Ray.
Yeah, Scorching Ray. Yeah, exactly.
Scorching Ray is well designed though. I like that skill.
I love Scorching Ray.
Really well designed skill.
But it's slow as fuck.
I'm playing a build right now with it, and it's pretty good. We're rocking like a +2 Skin of the Loyal on beta.
Wow. How'd you get because someone corrupted a +1.
Yeah, I did.
Oh my god. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm a
I'm
bit
running around
icky
with a
about that.
bright beak. I can't get the ascendancies though for the you know, the instruments of virtue and as Inquisitor. I'm playing like an MOM with the with actually. Do you know the thing like the consecrated ground?
Right.
Yeah, I'm playing with that.
Yeah, because it's 40% more.
6% more mana regen, or 6%
Oh.
6% flat mana regen, like percentage of your total mana pool per second. It's really
So
strong.
do you have reserved like
Nothing.
not
Nothing.
nothing?
I'm playing RF.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And then once I get the instruments of virtue, there's so much attack speed and cast speed there as well, and you can stack some cast speed, and if you get enough damage, you can like add enhance to it, and you can like increase the length of the beam, and so you can get this like windscreen wiper of the like you just do the 360 and it's really fast. And when if you stand on the thing, like so you shield charge and you drop down the ground, you get the cast speed, and because you just shield charge, you get the cast speed as well, and you get like 50 cast speed, and you whoop, and you can go forward. So
interesting. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, it's it's as I've said, I think I've said this multiple times that I feel like the character that I made, although maybe not as good as what you're talking about in terms of damage, because I made the block Scorching Ray character, which of course I showed in my snarky video of killing Chayula. I could never do Chayula Breach, but I killed Chayula pretty easily. I love that character. That was a great character. And again, if that character was transported, and your character too, characters like that transported back to 2014, you'd have one of the greatest characters in history.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, look at you, just fucking.
They're insane.
What wave your wand and everything dies and like whatever. But yeah, it's interesting because I really like those skills, and I feel like things like that suffer so much from where things are a little bit. So hopefully, maybe things come back a little bit to the point where being a little tankier and because your character is built on the fact that you don't move for a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared to take a hit or two.
Yes.
And so then, if bosses really have double health, you can actually tank a hit or two versus these other builds that rely on killing the boss in under a second. I don't know, especially with Volpact going away. I guess that's the thing.
Does Volpact going away for CI?
Right. For CI.
Or ES
so,
builds.
What are people going to be? They'll be a Berserker. You'll be Berserker. If Vol Fireball still works, you'll be Volpact.
Yeah. Vol Fireball Berserker. It's definitely an option.
Okay. You just won't have.
Or you go 100%. You go Elementalist, and you make sure you have 100% reflect reduction.
Okay, right.
Can also be done. You go Ascendant with 100% reflect reduction. Can also be done.
Yep. And I guess can't you just put the ring on too? That's
100% reflect reduction. That's how you get there.
Fine.
You can put on the ring.
Yeah.
And then the one node that gives you 10% more. Because I think that's 40, and then 10, and then 50 of the ascendancy. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it makes a huge difference. From playing with Waggle was playing EA for for Legacy. What was the league we just did? Legacy. Yeah.
Yes.
He was playing EA, and it was really remarkable how he higher health mobs with reflect. He fucking fuck himself up pretty badly, and then he puts on the ring, and he can just float through no concerns in the world. So, and then now I don't, we didn't even talk about how volatile got changed. Did you see the clip?
I've been playing with it. Like, I tank every volatile these days.
Okay. Is it because it's easy to tank? You mean?
It does no damage.
You can get out of it. Okay.
I don't know.
Interesting.
It just does no damage. Honestly, even if it could just do no damage and just be like a flashy little thing, cool thing. I don't know. It's such a stupid, it's such a boring mechanic anyways. Good riddance is all I think.
Okay. Well, so then what do you think? What should be the speed bump then though, right? Because that's the whole point of...
Well, for instance, you shouldn't have as much damage as you have. Step number one. Okay. Your Vaal skills you shouldn't be able to maintain Vaal skills.
Right.
Either. I think they need to tone down a little bit on the by the fact by not having Volpact on ES builds, well, they can't go 1,000 miles an hour anymore because they actually have to stop a little bit for the reflect. But there's reflect changes coming possibly. things going up in life a little bit, especially bosses will slow you down. Like there's a lot of things you can do. If you can control player damage more to where they don't just like obliterate everything immediately,
Right.
well then they're forced to actually fight against the content.
Yeah.
Like why not just have the content be the stopper?
Yeah.
Like the monsters themselves. There are some really dangerous monsters now.
Yes, that is true.
Coming in as well.
I guess it's interesting how the more I thought about it, I remembered how much I put stock in the fact that they were going to release new ascendancies.
Mm-hmm.
And I really kind of wish that was the direction they'd gone, because then they could tone down some ascendancies, in my opinion, where they could make a really kind of, okay, you're a summoner, right? I mean, Necromancer is really, to me, a summoner, but it ends up being the best support. That's what, because you're supporting your fucking minions, and then you can turn that into people too. It's just, I wish if they created a couple more options, then they could tone it down a little bit, and I think that would rein in some damage as well. Because at least has there been significant ascendancy changes on the beta?
Only two. On the beta? No, I don't think so.
How much?
I think only some buffs. I think not really nerfs.
So like, how much of the power of characters are from ascendancies still?
Well, a lot of it, obviously.
Yeah,
it's a big part of your. It's a big like extension of your character. Just becomes more powerful.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess more to come when Act 8 is released. Although I guess we don't know. Do we know exactly when it's coming out? It's coming out this week, late this week, or sorry, next week.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I'm really not sure.
Okay. So we have the 2 week, and we have the beta, and we have things going on. So I guess we'll by the next podcast we'll have hopefully a little bit more beta to talk about. I did enjoy watching the fight on Xbox. It seemed
yeah. Actually, I haven't seen. I've only seen I fell asleep. I was so tired. Because it was released like in the middle of the 1 week.
In the middle week.
Yeah. I was like, is it only Coolers that made a video about it?
I think that's the only one I've seen.
Yeah.
So apparently some other people were there. I've had people tell me that they played it, but they didn't have a video, or they didn't have anything. So it was interesting to see. Not to be, I guess I don't care. Most people here are going to be playing on PC, so I don't really care if I'm malign Xbox, but watching her play pretty well and then nearly die almost every time to trying to TP out.
Yeah.
To me just highlights, I don't know how it's going to work unless you make a TP button. And what's wrong with, we used to be able to do that in D3. D2. Right? Like I still remember F5, I think, was my TP. So I get F5 click and then create a TP right away. And I guess I can hear, as I say this, I can hear the hordes of, it's not hardcore if you log out, Moors. If you TP, you're a pussy and shit like that. But, sorry, these are how these games work, and almost how they've always worked. And I, for one, would welcome the change where we can't TP ever. In some senses, but I don't think people would like it because it fits my playstyle. People don't seem to like my playstyle. Everyone wants to play this fucking Ferrari going 1,000 miles an hour, TPing all the time. People want to play that. They don't seem to want to play my. I would love that change. So it's almost like I don't know what people are talking about. But anyway, like the watching her TP, I just was saying to myself, I don't understand how this is going to work. Now the commentator said something. Or the person overseeing the demo or whatever, somebody, I don't recognize the voice, but was saying how
I remember it being like one of the, I think it sounded familiar.
Okay. So he's saying that he thinks it's going to be a different game. People are going to focus on more my playstyle, not dying because TPing is so much tougher. And
on Xbox or in general?
On Xbox. Xbox. And the people in the thread were speculating, is this a change coming to PoE? And I commented thread, never. Give me a fucking break. But, I think that, I guess it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens.
So with that in mind, do you think that Could the Xbox be a petri dish for how the players kind of approach new content, right? In a slower setting? Because if players are really positive of the Xbox and how the game plays, could that be a positive, at least in our eyes, right? So for you and me, because I know there are other players out there who really like the quick play style and Speedy Gonzalez and everything, right? So, but we both would like it to slow down a bit. So, could that actually be a positive in terms of them seeing that the game in its current state could actually be a little bit slower and people would really enjoy it?
Right. Well, so what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. I just posed the question. I don't. It's we know that they look at numbers and data and all that, and they definitely look at feedback. So I don't know. In my little world, it's like, okay, they get some really good feedback of Xbox, and like, we can take that.
Right.
We can like maybe transfer some of that over, some of the experiences they get from a different, like the same game but in a different environment. Maybe they can learn from that a little bit.
Right. Okay.
Also, what creates like fun moments, because you can't see that on PC because you're like, well, this is the PC that we have all these tools. Once you start restricting players, maybe they start playing differently.
Right.
Well, they do play differently.
Right.
So
right. No, I think that I think there's definitely something something to be picked up, something to learn, something to see. For sure. I'm just I don't know. I still come down on the side of I think it's going to be a failure. And that's nothing against GGG. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm not saying because GGG is a failure. It seems like this stuff does not seem to work. Like I said in my video,
D3 pretty popular on the console though? Like I wouldn't say that it's from what I've heard, it's not like a blockbuster, but it's well received, and it's people seem to enjoy that experience on the what is it? Is it Xbox as well, or is it just all consoles? Or okay,
I think it's Xbox as well. Yeah. Maybe PlayStation as well. I don't know. Yeah, I guess.
Like it looked pretty good from what I saw. And she's not like an Xbox player. Like this was like her first time on a controller or something.
Okay, yeah. So it seemed like it worked better than I thought it would. Mm-hmm. So I do give it that. It did seem though that you were. It was definitely. It was definitely tough in some sense to just do some of the things that we take for granted. I think on PC is the way I would put it. Mm-hmm. Right. I think. I don't know. I guess this could be. I guess we really just have to see. Mm-hmm. We have to really see at the end of the day what ends up coming from it, whether they, it's successful or not. I do think. I remember that wasn't D3 designed with console in mind the whole time. I thought that's something I've read. I don't know if that's apocryphal or that's truth, but I thought that
at this point I don't know. Okay. It was definitely speculated that was the thing. At some point, whether or not it was ever confirmed completely, I don't know.
Okay. Right. So, I do feel like that's part of it. Also, just the fact that it's Blizzard got it some sales. Like Blizzard, Blizzard tends to get sales for things, even if they're not necessarily the best. Okay. So we'll see. I hope there's something that they take from it. I think that's the best possible outcome for us on PC, as they learn a couple things and pick up some things. And so whether Xbox fails or is a great success, we get something out of it. Mm-hmm. I do think though that's the part that's always scary to me, to be honest, is that regardless of what they say, most of the outcomes from Xbox are negative for PC players. Right. And people are always saying something like, well, they wouldn't have something if not for the Xbox. And my response is bullshit because almost all the things have been performance improvements and some other things. You're
Mm-hmm.
telling me that PoE, a game that I saw someone test with a 1080 Ti and the newest, I guess this Ryzen Threadripper chip,
Mm-hmm.
CPU, is the current best gaming chip, I guess, in some sense. So he still lagged on PoE. He was doing a test. It was on Reddit. So like you're telling me they wouldn't be trying to improve the performance of PoE? Of course they would be. But so my point being, though, I think whatever you game theory all the outcomes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like Xbox is a resounding success. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
resources will be taken away from the PC version of the game to do things with Xbox. 100%. I mean, that's the whole like point of economic models.
Wouldn't they just like, wouldn't they just set up a new department though for that and maintain the if that generates its own.
It still would take time. It would take people away. It just there would be
Like there would be like they have to communicate obviously. So there's always
Sure.
now you have this communication and they have to kind of like live together in like there will become this like symbiotic relationship between the two where one has to live like they can't live without each other eventually or whatever.
Right.
Well, they
Right.
probably
No,
could, but then you'd have to like
Yeah.
sever and there's all these problems and
But you can think about it just like mapping,
mm-hmm.
right? So like you're saying with there's 100% quantity if you're the only thing mapping.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, maybe there's 160% quantity with Xbox,
Mm.
but that's still 80% Xbox, 80% PC, right?
Yeah.
And so, okay, and then, but I'm just saying, so like, let's say the four outcome, Xbox resounding success. Xbox is sort of equal to the PC game. They're still there, so that means they don't really net more money, but it's big enough that they're going to shift resources away from PC, and they've already done that anyway. Xbox is a moderate failure, is the best way I could, like it's not it justified spending the money, but it's not something where they're going to like fly the entire staff to the Microsoft Xbox 2 release to promote PoE, right? It's just a game that's on the whatever. And like, so even then resources were taken from PC to do this thing and it like didn't net much of a result. But I mean, that's probably the best result for the PC player, right? Because PC is still the focus. It didn't really cost the company money. They maybe, got back and maybe some improvements were gained, like you're saying, insights or whatever. And then the fourth option is it's a unmitigated disaster. It's the Titanic, right? Of course that's bad because it's like they could have just taken a pile of money and set it on fire, which we all know that's not a good thing to do with your money. So I'm just saying, like, of those four options, if those are the four options, three of them are bad for PC players. Just at you know what I mean? And this is coming from someone who I don't know what the thing's going to be. I would bet on GGG 10 out of 10 times. I would bet on GGG to make things work.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, 3 out of the 4 things, because some of those things is GGG making it work. 3 out of the 4 is in fact GGG a success. So the bet is you are 75% of the chance, the 75% chance you win your bet. GGG successful, but it's a negative for PC players.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the nuance that I think was lost back when the Xbox discussion was coming up, is that this could work out great and not be great for us. And I think that's why we've seen very little announcements from GGG about Xbox stuff, because I think they really kind of miscalculated the best way to do this stuff. And I still think, like, if let's say they announced some big thing for Xbox, my response would be great. That does shit for me. So I don't know. I'm excited, I guess, to see what happens. That playthrough, it seemed really cool. It did seem like, there was it looked good.
Yeah.
But it did seem a little clunky. And I own an Xbox and I played Xbox games.
Okay.
There's just I think there's a little too much going on for an Xbox in terms of the flasks and then the skills.
Yeah. It's a lot of actions you have to do on a controller.
Right. Just a little too much, in my opinion. I mean, I do think PoE is more suited to Xbox than it was 3 years ago, right? Because maybe 3 years ago you were
really.
Yeah, I think you used to have a single target and an AoE target 3 years ago. You used to have more.
I guess, that's true. Yeah.
Every map you had to turn on Tempest Shield, turn on Arctic Armor, turn on whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So like I think they've reduced a lot of that shit. Cast on damage got introduced, removing some stuff. Although I mean, again, talk about cast on damage taken would be perfect if it works the way this is why I never. This again, we come back to they change things in ways that I can't understand. Why doesn't cast on damage taken work with Enduring Cry? And did you have to press a Mortal Call? Right, because that would make much more sense in terms of because that was the point of the thing was to you've made it your one thing. I don't want to ever cast Enduring Cry, but I want to dedicate a gem slot to Enduring a set of 4, and there's a cost benefit because to make Enduring Cry work with that thing, you're dedicating 4 link to it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Although, of course, the way they changed it now, where it doesn't cast gems unless it's the right level, lets people fuck around, where they have the level 6 cast on damage taken, level 6 enduring, or whatever the equivalent is 9, and then 2 level 20 gems in the same link, and those are castable by you because they're over the level of the cast on damage taken, which I think is not the way it should work. But because again, the whole point of there was a cost. If you put it in the link, it will cast on the cast and damage taken. That was the original balance, and then they've gone away. Anyway, we can go on and on. But I just think it's interesting that those types of things, I think, make it more palatable to Xbox than it was in the past. That's just my opinion. I mean, I definitely could be wrong, but I still think we're also far away from it being an actual Xbox sort of RPG a little bit. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, okay, I can follow that. Yeah.
So, I want to thank everyone for coming to the Coffee Talk. This was number, I already forgot. Is it 16 or 15? 16, my God. So this is number 16. You can find us on the coffeetalkpodcast.com, and you can subscribe. We're on all of the cool things, all the cool kids, iPhone, Android, I don't know, etc. And then, of course, you can find it on Nugi's YouTube channel, which is
youtube.com/nugiyen.
Yeah. And I guess we will see. We will see everyone out there in the solo self-found 2-week mayhem extravaganza bonanza, etc.
And we will see you next time on Saturday.
Yes. Oh, very good. I'd already forgotten. Saturday the 24th, right? Let me just double check that. Yes. Saturday the 24th. So the best, we'll post the thing. I'll put up the thing because people are going to be timing issues. But literally 5 days, 22 hours from right now.
Yes.
Right? Do you think that's good, Noogie?
Yes.
Same time, just the day before?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're a very special Mayhem edition. We'll call it I don't know. We'll have to think of something fancy. Nugi's chat save us and think of something with mayhem and other words. Mature, busty. I mean, we already did that. So yes, that's it. Thank you very much. It was fun, Nugi.
Yeah, it was fun. See you next time.